Hello friends, welcome to my channel. In this video, we will talk about the fact why Pakistan is going through an ever-growing food and economic crisis. Before answering the question, we will take a look at a latest incident that happened on last Saturday in Mirpur Khas, a city in Pakistan's Sindh province.
Last Saturday in Mirpur Khas, a city in Pakistan's Sindh province, hundreds of people lined up for hours outside a park to buy subsidized wheat flour, offered for 65 rupees a kilogram instead of the current, inflated rate of about 140 to 160 rupees. When a few trucks arrived, the crowd surged forward, leaving several injured. One man, Harsing Kulhi, who was there to bring a 5 kg bag of flour home for his wife and children, was crushed and killed in the chaos. As the dust settled, a group of people at the site took Kolhi's body to the local press club and demanded the registration of a murder case against officials responsible for the stampede as well as the flour crisis across the province, according to Dawn. As the country still reels from the devastating floods that hit over the summer, which government officials estimate damaged more than 80% of the country's crops, it's also contending with economic uncertainty that has left food and medicine lingering in ports. The State Bank of Pakistan says that their foreign exchange reserves have fallen to a critical level of $4.3 billion, barely enough for 3 weeks of imports. Before former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party came to power in 2018, the government borrowed heavily in dollars to fund growth, keeping an overvalued exchange rate. By 2018, the policy of using an overvalued exchange rate could not continue because the country's foreign exchange reserves were sharply down. Khan's party was forced to turn to the IMF in 2019 for a $6 billion economic bailout. In an effort to stretch dollars, imports are being held at the ports, impacting everything from food to medicine. Containers of onions are stuck at port because the payments are not being cleared by the bank, so onion prices are now soaring, says UNews. In a country of 230 million on the verge of default, shortages are bound to pop up across the supply chain, especially for imported food and medicine. In December, Pakistan's Poultry Association protested a 2.5-month pending shipment of soybeans, a staple in the diet of chickens, which they said was leading to an increase of 162 rupees in the price of poultry, a 45% price hike. The country's Ministry of National Health Services, Regulations and Coordination issued a warning that the country could soon face a shortage of life-saving drugs in the near future, as local banks are refraining from opening letters of credit for the import of medicine's raw material.
During the International Conference on Climate Resilient Pakistan, a pledging conference hosted by the Pakistani government and the United Nations in Geneva earlier this week, the international community, including France, the EU, and China, pledged over $10 billion in loans to help Pakistan recover from flood damages. The one-day conference was held to present a plan for a climate-resilient recovery and raise continued assistance from the public and private sectors, shaping up to be a test case for having large emitters pay loss and damages for smaller emitters bearing the brunt of climate change. For now, UNews notes that they're just pledges. It might be months until the funds materialize, and they're likely to be allocated towards specific reconstruction plans. When a deal might be reached is anyone's guess, according to UNews. Pakistan has been in a deadlock with the IMF over $1.1 billion in funding since last September. The country's army chief, General Syed Asim Munir, recently visited the UAE and Saudi Arabia in the hopes of securing additional loans from them. The funds were dependent on various conditions, such as raising energy prices and taxes, which the Pakistani government has yet to meet. On his way out the door last April following a vote of no confidence, former Prime Minister Khan subsidized energy prices, just as the war in Ukraine was causing sharp increases in energy prices worldwide. He was basically laying a minefield for the incoming government. With elections on the horizon this August, or possibly earlier, as Khan's Tehreek-e-Insaf party is pushing to dissolve provincial assemblies in a bid for earlier elections, the government is unwilling to make any moves that might put them out of favor with voters. In the meantime, UNews says, routines and decisions once considered mundane have become a lot more difficult. You hear stories from doctors beginning to see adult malnutrition in adults who have given up 2 meals a day. You hear from teachers in schools saying that parents come and say, I have 4 children, can you tell me which one to keep in school? I cannot afford to pay the school fees for the other 3. People cannot make ends meet, UNews says. Life is unbearable.